everyone and welcome back to another video. So I've got a workout video for you this week. It's going to be a home glute workout with minimal equipment. Obviously gyms in the UK are closed at the moment and I've never done a video like this for a home workout, so I thought why not just give it a go. I do always get messages saying that they're quite helpful whenever I post one of these, so I thought it would be useful to do like a home version of it as well. Like I said, it's going to be a glute focused home workout with minimal equipment. I'm going to take you through my favourite glute exercises that I've been doing at home, ones that I find work really well for me personally. I'm going to give you some tips on sort of how to get the most out of them while being at home with limited equipment. So if you're looking forward to the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let's get into it. So the first exercise I'm going to take you through are sumo deadlifts. Sumo deadlifts are definitely one of my favourites to do in the gym. I can always really feel them in my glutes, and it's one that I can go quite heavy on as well, so I always feel like quite strong when I'm doing them. But having said that, obviously having minimal equipment at home, it has been quite hard to try and replicate that, and it has been quite a lot of like trial and error trying to like figure out what's like the best sort of way to kind of get the most out of the movement. But I finally found a setup that sort of works for me. Basically all I've been using is one dumbbell, which is 12.5 kg, and a long resistance band. I have the dumbbell sort of in my hands, kind of in between my legs, the same as you would hold a bar, and then I have the resistance band like wrapped under my feet, and I'm also holding onto the resistance band along with the dumbbell, and you'll be able to see it better in the video demonstration that I'm going to show you in a second. That's sort of like the basic setup that I've been using. Normally in the gym I would do like 85 kilograms on a sumo deadlift, whereas I've only got 12.5 at home, so the resistance band just helps to add that little bit extra weight and make it a little bit harder. Obviously it is still a lot less than what I would normally do, but you've got to kind of make do with what you have. So for a sumo deadlift you want to have quite a wide stance, a little bit wider than shoulder width, and you want to have your toes turned out slightly. That just helps to put that little bit extra focus on your hamstrings and your glutes than it does in a conventional deadlift. You want to sit down into the movement, make sure that your spine is nice and neutral, and you're going to push up through your heels, bring the dumbbell up to kind of standing position, and then basically take it back down. That is the basics of the movement. A few things that you want to sort of watch out for are making sure that, like I said, your spine stays neutral through the whole movement. You should not have any sort of curve in your spine at all at any point in the movement. Make sure that you are lifting with your legs and not lifting with your back. Something that helps me with any type of deadlift is imagining, obviously it is technically a pulling movement, but rather than thinking of it as pulling the weight off the floor, I like to think of it as pushing the floor away, and that just kind of really helps me to kind of put all the energy into my legs and make sure that, like I said, my legs are doing the lifting rather than my back. And the last thing that I want to mention is make sure that you don't hyperextend at the top. So basically you see a lot of people like that sort of like bring their hips forward in order to squeeze their bum at the top of a deadlift. You don't want to be doing that. That literally does nothing for it. Just make sure that you're kind of standing up to a straight position and you're not like kind of leaning backwards into it. And then moving on to rep range, normally in the gym I would do like 6 to 8 reps of a deadlift. When you've only got light weights, in order to kind of try and replicate the intensity as much as you can, you obviously need to increase the rep range. So for these I've normally been going for like 15 to 20 reps. Okay, next up we've got everyone's favourite, which is hip thrusts. I feel like hip thrusts are like literally just everyone's go-to glute exercise. They are so beneficial. Again, hip thrusts are one that most people can go quite heavy on in the gym, but in order to sort of change that to kind of suit my lighter weights at home, I have been changing them to pause reps. So a pause rep is basically just when you add like an isometric hold into a movement. So for example with a hip thrust you would take it up into that position, squeeze your bum at the top, hold for 3 seconds or however many seconds you want to hold for, and then bring it back down. So it's basically just having like a little hold at the top or the bottom of every rep. And like I said, that just increases the intensity a little bit. When you've not got the weight there, it just kind of like makes your glutes work that little bit harder with the lighter weight. Pretty basic setup. I've been using a dumbbell on my hips. I also add a resistance band around my knees as well, again just for that little bit extra resistance. As you can see in the video, I'm using a chair from my kitchen table, which is a little bit high, but it's the only thing that I've kind of got that I can use in my house. So ideally you want something that's a little bit lower than that, but obviously again just kind of make do with what you have. So the main kind of form tips for a hip thrust is you want to have the bottom of your shoulder blades resting on whatever you're leaning on. So for me it was my chair, so bottom of your shoulder blades resting on that. Make sure you keep your chin tucked in through the whole movement. You want to have your feet directly under your knees to make sure that you're just isolating your glutes. If your feet are too far out, you're going to target your hamstrings a little bit more, and if your feet are too far in, you're going to feel it a little bit more in your quads. So the main thing that I sort of see people doing wrong with hip thrust is when people like sort of swing up and they're kind of using like their whole body to initiate the movement rather than just using their hips and their glutes. So just make sure that like your kind of upper body stays sort of stationary and it is just your hips that are doing all the moving. Make sure you're kind of like really pushing up through your heels, squeezing your glutes at the top, and you want to try and get that posterior pelvic tilt at the top of the movement, which is basically when you're like pushing your hips forward. That's sort of like the main form points with that. Obviously, in order to sort of get the most out of the movement at home with minimal equipment on this one, like I have mentioned, I've been adding in a pause rep, which is a 3-second hold at the top of every rep. I know it doesn't sound like it's going to do much, but trust me, it absolutely kills. I do still go quite high rep on it though. I normally try and go for like 10 to 15 reps on this one. So that is how I've been kind of altering hip thrusts to get the most out of them at home. So the next exercise is actually probably my current favourite. So we're going to be talking about reverse lunges. It is quite a simple movement. You're literally just going to have dumbbells in each hand, stepping back into a lunge and then bringing it back into the middle. So basically the sort of like the rule of thumb is forward lunges or front lunges or whatever you want to call them. If you're stepping forward into a lunge, that's going to target your quads a little bit more, whereas if you're stepping back into a lunge, that's going to target your glutes a little bit more. So that's the reason that I chose those over any other type of lunge. I've not really kind of modified these too much. I have 12.5 kilogram dumbbells, which is pretty much the same weight as I would use for reverse lunges in the gym. I've kind of been doing these the same as I normally would. So the only sort of like thing to sort of mention form wise with lunges is just make sure that you're getting low enough. And when you're in a lunge, your knees should be at right angles. If they're not, then you are not getting low enough. And the one thing that I sort of like to do with these is just tap my knee on the floor as I'm kind of stepping back, and just kind of that kind of lets me know that I've got low enough. It's just a very gentle tap though, like I've not got any momentum sort of coming back up. And another thing that actually helps me really feel it in my glutes is making sure that all my weight is on the front leg. Make sure that like that front leg is doing all of the working. Because obviously sometimes if you step back into the lunge, you can use your back leg to sort of like push up and help with the movement, which isn't really going to do you that much good. Just make sure that your front leg is doing all the moving and you're just pushing up off that leg to stand back up, and you'll really feel it on like the bottom of your glutes, like top of your hamstrings. Like I said, the weights that I have at home are pretty similar to the weights that I would use in the gym for reverse lunges. So I've kind of been keeping my reps at sort of like 8 to 10 on each side. If you have only got lighter weights and it's a lot lighter than what you would normally do in the gym, just increase the reps, kind of go for 10, 12, 15, 20 on each side, and you should really feel the burn. So next up we have got a little superset, which if you don't know is when you do 2 exercises back to back rather than just doing the one exercise. So for this superset we have got pull throughs and frog pumps. These are the same sort of movement as a cable pull through that you would do in the gym. I really like doing these. I always kind of make sure that I've got a cable pull through in my training plan. I really like them. I really feel them in my glutes. So for this one, obviously I don't have a cable machine at home. I don't think many people do. Basically what I've been doing is I've been tying it around the leg of my TV stand, and then just kind of like coming through and holding it like I would with the cable. Just kind of find something that's pretty heavy and that's not gonna move, and just tie it around that, and then you'll be good to go. It's pretty much just exactly the same as what you would do in the gym. So you're basically just gonna take a few steps out, make sure that you've got like a good amount of resistance on the band. I like to have my feet a little bit wider than shoulder width and toes turned out for this one. Again, that just helps me to feel it more in my glutes. And then you're going to hinge at the hips. Take the band in between your legs, sort of as far as your hamstrings will stretch. You're just going to drive your hips forward and squeeze in your bum at the top. So I have kind of mentioned cable pull throughs in one of these videos before, so I don't really want to go into too much detail. If you want kind of tips on form and how to get the hip hinge and how to do it correctly, I'll leave a link to the video that I mentioned it in before, because I do go into quite a lot of detail on that video. Yeah, the only thing to kind of mention is it's a hinge movement, not squat. So just bear that in mind when you're doing them. And the second exercise I was doing is frog pumps. Frog pump is basically the same as a glute bridge, except you've got your soles of your feet together rather than flat on the floor, and your legs are sort of making like a diamond shape. You're pushing your hips up like you would in a glute bridge, squeezing your bum at the top and then taking it back down. So for the setup for these, I've just had the dumbbell on my hips, and then I've added a resistance band around my knees as well, again to add that little bit extra intensity. If you've never done these before, these can feel quite strange and it can take quite a while to get used to because it is such an unnatural movement, but they do work really well, and once you get it, then you can really feel it in your glutes. By having the soles of your feet together in this exercise and having your knees kind of pushing out and legs in a sort of diamond shape, it just means that your hips kind of start off in an abducted, externally rotated position, which enhances glute activation. Same as the hip thrusts, make sure you want to focus on getting that posterior pelvic tilt at the top of the movement, which again is like pushing your hips sort of like forward. Like I said, I do these two exercises as a superset, back to back. I've been going for normally about 12 to 15 reps on a cable pull through and like 15 to 20 on frog pump. So the next exercise, we have got a hamstring curl. Again, this is one that I do quite enjoy doing in the gym. I always prefer to do the lying hamstring curl than the seated one, just because I don't know, I just prefer it. So obviously I don't have a hamstring curl machine at home, so what I've been doing is same as the cable pull through. I have been using a long resistance band, tying it around the leg of my TV stand, and then just kind of popping that around my legs. It is pretty simple to replicate at home if you've got resistance bands. Basically I just kind of move forward, so I've got enough resistance on the resistance band. Lying on my tummy, I'm just going to lift my heels up to my bum like I would in a normal lying hamstring curl. My resistance band I think is quite heavy, so it is quite similar to the weight that I would normally do in the gym. So I've kind of been going for like 12-15 reps, which is like similar to what we normally go for in the gym. But again, if you've only got a lighter resistance band, then just increase the reps on this one. And you can also do this with a dumbbell. I have tried this before, but I find it really awkward, and I'm always paranoid that I'm gonna drop the dumbbell because you're holding it with your feet, so it's not the most secure. If you don't have a resistance band and you want to try it with a dumbbell, then all you're gonna do is pop the dumbbell in between your feet, lying on your stomach. Again, you're just gonna lift your feet up towards your bum and then take it back down. I personally think that using a resistance band for this one is much better. It replicates the movement much better than a dumbbell, but like I said, work with what you have. And last but not least, I just did a little glute finisher on the end. I do like to have finishers, especially in lower body workouts, just to kind of really burn out the muscles and just to finish off the workout. Like I feel like a workout's not finished unless you do like a finisher. I don't know, but basically for this one it was just 3 different exercises, and I did all 3 exercises back to back, and then I did 3 rounds back to back with minimal rest. So it's obviously really high rep, it does really burn, but after you've done it you feel amazing and your glutes feel really nice and peachy, so it's definitely worth it. So basically all I used for this one was a resistance band. You just want to have your resistance band just above your knee. The 3 exercises that I did were seated abductions, sumo squat pulses and crab walks. Starting off with the seated abductions, I did 20 of these and then moved on to 8 sumo squat pulses. So for these, 1 rep is down to 3 and up, that counts as 1. So I did 8 of those, and then 8 crab walks, 4 in one direction and 4 in the other. Like I said, I did all 3 exercises back to back, and I did 3 rounds back to back with minimal rest. If you are struggling with the reps that I've kind of suggested there, you can just bring the reps down a little little bit and try and build up kind of over the weeks or whatever. But yeah, that is the end of the workout. There's something to quickly add on at the end. Even though I have done all these little things to try and replicate my gym workouts as much as possible, the intensity still is not the same. Like, I'm still trying to make the exercises harder by like adding resistance band, by adding pauses, all stuff like that. It's not quite the same as having the weights there. So one thing that I have been doing is adding more exercises into my workouts. So normally in a gym workout, for lower body especially, I would only do like 5 exercises, maybe 6 at an absolute max. This workout as a whole had 9 exercises in it. Obviously there were like a superset and then the little circuit to finish off, but 9 exercises, which is a lot more than I would normally have in a lower body workout. But yeah, that's just another way that I've kind of been trying to match the intensity of my gym workout. So if you do try out this workout at home, let me know. Either leave a comment down below or message me on Instagram. Let me know how you get on, let me know how you found it. I do really hope that you found the video helpful. I hope you got some tips on how to recreate some exercises from the gym at home and kind of get the most out of them, as well as getting some tips on form and technique and all stuff like that as well. So I do really hope you find it helpful. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.